see. I see Marcelo's here.
Hi, Marcelo. Yeah.
You know him, Camilla?
I do.
You guys know each other? Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Not,
okay.
I never met him like in person, but like, yeah.
All right, guys. So I think we are going to get started because we have so much content today. So let's really make the use of this hour. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'm so excited for this talk, and there's so many reasons. But yeah, definitely send your questions throughout the live, okay? We'll be taking questions in the middle. So this is the second Nomad talk that we've been doing for those of you who are here for the first time. This is the second one we're doing, and we're doing a different talk with a different guest every 2 weeks. So definitely also be sure to check on the next dates and keep coming back because we're gonna always have some really cool content for you guys every 2 weeks, okay? So I'm just gonna jump right in and welcome our guest, Camilla Ciappina. So the whole idea—
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So excited to talk to you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about you, Camilla, just do like a basic bio, and then we're going to jump right into the questions. But the sort of overall theme of our talk today is that, you know, whether you're switching careers or thinking about starting a portfolio school, or you're an art director and want to switch to copywriting, or vice versa, there's no doubt about the importance of the portfolio in getting noticed and getting a job, and more importantly, you know, your dream job, not just a job. So a burning question for a lot of creatives is, how do I build a better portfolio to land the job? So that's why Camilla's here. She's a bit of an expert, as she's going to tell us. She's joining us from Brazil, but she is based in New York. She attended Miami Ad School in Brazil, founded an amazing platform called Pimp My Portfolio, which is awesome. Like, I suggest you guys look it up already and follow her. And she's currently Senior Art Director at Publicis New York. So welcome. Hey, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about portfolios. So please ask any questions. I'm here to answer them all, hopefully. If not, make sure to reach out, and I'll love to answer them separately.
So maybe you can begin by walking it back a little bit and telling us about your creative journey. Sort of, how did that start? What was your thinking behind going to portfolio school in the first place? Like, what was that whole experience like?
I graduated from college here in Brazil, and then when I first got a job at Havas here in Sao Paulo as an artist assistant, I felt like I was lacking, like missing something. You know, my portfolio was pretty raw. I was only doing social posts, so I wasn't learning much. But then one day, I got this email from this guy that works at David here, that used to work at David here, saying, hey, do you want to come at the agency so I can look at your book? And I was like, oh, out of the blue, so maybe there's an opportunity there. So I went there, and the guy just trashed my portfolio. He made me feel like crap. I was like, oh my God, I'm not made for this. So I just give up. Like, he literally told me to give up. I was like, I'm not going to give up. So I went home and I was like, okay, I need to make it better. So I decided to go to Miami Ad School because I clearly, like, the guy said, like, you need references, like, you're not up for this. I'm like, okay. So I cried, of course. I was like, oh my God. So I went back to work, suck it up, and then I signed up for Miami Ad School, and then I learned a lot. And then at the same time, I started working at AlmapBBDO because I was like, okay, my portfolio made me to AlmapBBDO, which is a pretty cool agency here in Brazil. And then working at Miami Ad School and doing school wasn't easy, like managing both. But I managed to produce work here, produce work at Miami Ad School, and then I went to another agency here in Brazil, DDB. But then I got thinking, like, I want to go to New York. New York, I felt like New York is in my blood, like it was meant to be. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna graduate Miami Ad School in New York. So I packed my bags, went to New York, stayed there for 3 months for the quarter, and then came back to Brazil, like, okay, I need to get a work visa and move to New York. So that's pretty much what I did. I was like moving around.
For those of you who let's just explain the quarter away real quick, because sometimes people in the live, they have no idea what that means. So guys, basically at Miami Ad School, there's a 2-year program, and then you get to do quarters away and you can pick almost pretty much any city in the world like that. I remember that was my feeling when I was in school.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, okay, basically I can go anywhere. I mean, of course you have to apply and you have to have a good portfolio and you have to have good grades. There's a bunch of prerequisites, but the idea is that the world is kind of open to you to have as many experiences as possible in the world. So that's how you got to New York.
Yeah, I always wanted New York. And then I liked it when I got there, I liked the way they work compared to Brazil. I mean, they're the way they concept and they come up with ideas and how like they have like a hierarchy. I like working with organization. I have like anxiety. So like in Brazil, I felt like, oh, you have to go straight up to the city, while there like you do have more rules to follow, and I work better that way, for me at least. So, and I have been my portfolio, so I needed to work in a place that would respect my side project as well. So that's why I chose New York, and I chose to come back to New York. And I've been there since then. I love it. I miss it so much. Like, it's like, oh my God, I can't even begin with. But that's how I ended up going to New York. I did live in a church while I was there looking for jobs. I didn't have money.
What do you mean you lived in a church?
I had this work visa, but then like it's the visa that I have allows you to not have an agency sponsoring you. So I had that, but like no agency was understanding that. So I had an offer from YNR, and a week before flying to YNR, they said, oh, the lawyers didn't understood how you got that visa, so we're gonna drop the offer. And I was like, crap, I have to be there because your visa has like a limit that you have to go. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go, but I didn't have money because I spent everything on my visa. So I was like, okay, I just figured it out. So there was like this church in the middle of Times Square that was just for girls, and it was like cheap. And I was like, okay, I can go. I went there.
So it was like a dorm room type thing? Like,
yeah, it was like 50 rooms, one stove for 15 girls. 50 girls was like very weird. And then I moved there. It was just supposed to be for a month. I ended up staying for 5 months so I can like get money to find an apartment. But then that's where Pin My Portfolio was literally like became Pin My Portfolio, because out of necessity. And I was showing my portfolio so many times a week with recruiters and creatives that I was like, okay, Pin My Portfolio has definitely an opportunity here. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to gather all the feedbacks I got and start applying to clients. So
yeah, I think there's so much for us to unpack in what you just said, because I think that one thing that you said that's very interesting is that, well, you were reaching out to a lot of recruiters and a lot of different agencies. So, and I've heard this from other friends who sort of went on to stay in New York, and that I feel like being successful in New York has a lot to do with really like sending so many emails.
You have to hustle.
It's not just sending 5 emails and then getting an answer back. Oh no, you really have to keep going and get maybe.
Job.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally that.
But now about Pimp My Portfolio. So you already had this idea when you were in Brazil, correct?
Yeah, I came up in my talk with friends. But it was just something like I never see becoming big, to be super honest. It was just my friends were like, oh, you love portfolios so much. Like, you know, all the platforms or how people like to see it. Like, you should do something about it. So in Brazil, it used to call Pin My Pasta, because pasta in Brazil, it's book. That's how we call book. It's not the pasta like spaghetti and stuff. So it was just Pin My Pasta. And then I used to do like 2, 3 every 2 months, like portfolios. And that was it. I wasn't fighting too hard for it. But then when I went to the US for the internship, quarter away, it's like I started showing this idea to recruiters, and they were like, we don't have this here. Like, you should do something with it. But I never thought like, how can I bring a project to America? Like, are they going to pay attention for like an immigrant, like a girl? Like I was like, I think I was 23 at the time, like 22-year-old girl trying to build portfolios for creative directors. Like, that's not a good slogan. So I was like, oh, that's never going to happen here. So I was like, okay, who knows, maybe someday. And then when I moved there in 2017, I turned Pimp My Pasta into Pimp My Portfolio and started charging in dollars. And then when I started to charge in dollars, I was like, oh my God, I'm making dollars now. So for me, it was like super excited moment. So that's how Pimp, like I took Pimp there and I started to teach classes. It took one recruiter to believe in Pin My Portfolio to become what it is today. Like
how do you mean?
I went to a recruiter. She was like a creator, not an agency recruiter. She was like an outside recruiter. She had her own recruitment agency, and she was like, I have this group of 8 kids. I think you can start giving portfolio reviews to them and we see how it goes. If they like, we can like, I can help you out. And like, okay, she believed in me. I went there for looking for a job, not to present in my portfolio, but she saw something in it. I never landed a job with her though, but she helped pimp. So
Not yet.
yeah, so that's good. So the group of kids, they liked the idea. I call it kids, but they were the same age as I am. So it was a little bit threatening for me. Like, oh my gosh, are they going to listen to me? So it was a good trial. She said they loved it. The feedback was good. So she started giving me slowly like clients of her. It's like, oh, I'm trying to find a job for this city. Can you pimp his portfolio? I was like, okay. So that's how I started to build like my networking. And then I just used LinkedIn from now on to use my to get clients. But that's pretty much how Pin My Portfolio became Pin My Portfolio. Yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, yeah, it's a very like simple explanation for a very big project, right? Because transitioning,
I had no idea.
Also transitioning into a business, because then you have to think about like spreadsheets and finances.
Oh no, yeah, now it's a full-time.
It's not just the creative part. Yeah, and then like marketing.
Full-time. I am my own agency. That's the good thing, though. I have freedom to do and whatever I want to do with it. So that's
and good. Adjust. So tell everyone, like, then what is Pimp My Portfolio? What do you do? Like, how does the business work?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Pimp My Portfolio, the name says itself. I pimp your portfolio. So I revamp the look and how it presents. I do not work on the pieces itself because I'm also a creative and it needs to come from you, the actual pieces, but I revamped the presentation. So I see portfolios as like a business card. So it's our first contact with the agency. You send via email. You're not there to walk them through your work, right? So your portfolio needs to be well presented. So that's pretty much what Pimp does. Like I organize the project pages. I make the about page looks nice. I also revamp resumes because people take resumes for granted outside, like not in Brazil, but like out there, it is important. So I revamp resumes now. It's been my resume. And then I do like, if it's working on mobile, if it's well presented on mobile, like I make sure the thumbnails are cool. So I rework on the thumbnails. I do logos if you want a logo on your on your portfolio. So things like that makes a whole difference when you are like showing your book. Yes, the work needs to speak for itself, because I know a lot of people say like, my work is good, but not anymore. People are taking like your portfolio is a storytelling of your work and of who you are. So
who you are, yeah, that's so important.
Super, like the work is good. Yeah, I've seen a lot of portfolios with people tons of Can awards, but I don't find information that easily. So for me, it loses point just because of it. So things like that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and you did mention, I think I like I mentioned to you before, I was stalking all your social media feeds and Pimp My Portfolio to get all the information for today. And I think you said something along the lines of that recruiters look at a website or portfolio, I can imagine, for between 3 to 5 minutes.
It's so sad.
Which is nothing.
It's not
really.
It's not the length of a case study if it's like 2 minutes, but that's what they said. The recruiters I talk to, sometimes it's 2, sometimes they say 5, sometimes they say 1 minute. Like the thumbnails, for example, that you put on your portfolio, they need to be eye-catching, because if it's eye-catching, you're going to make recruiters click through. So think like it's a clickbait. You want to make people click to see. So that's how you need to think of your portfolio. The first impression, it counts. So if the main page is all messed up, they won't even bother to click on the about page. So you need to make them at least click in one project to make it worth. It's insane. It's
I actually have a personal curiosity about that, because I'm a photographer. And so I remember when I started at Miami Ad School, that was always the thing. It's like, whether you take your portfolio to an editor at a newspaper or a magazine, or even like or submit for an art show or something, it was more or less that same mentality of like, the person has to be able to see your work very quickly. And if you don't catch their eye very quickly, they're just going to click away. Do you feel like in the advertising industry, it's become quicker, or was it always like that?
No, they said it became quicker. Because there's more, like they said that with time, more people are into advertising. So the competition is getting like tougher and tougher. And more nowadays, people are finding creative ways to reach out to recruiters or to reach out to creative directors. So they do check a lot of books. It is insane the amount of books that they see. A recruiter told me she got like the other day 213 emails. So from those 213 emails, how can you stood up? Like you need to pray for the advertising gods for her to click on your email. So it is tough. Like I'm a senior, but like I'm still like, whenever like I look for a job, I'm not looking for a job right now, but even I am afraid of looking for jobs, you know, because like how's it the market right now? I have no idea how to look for a job right now because things keeps changing constantly. So that's why your portfolio is stories of who you are. It shows your work, and you need to sell. Like I know in advertising, we suck advertising about ourselves. Like we're the worst people ever.
Photographers, girl, photographers too. It's so if you ask a photographer
I suck at talking about myself. I'm like, seriously, do I need to? I like, okay. But we need to, like, unfortunately, we have to push it.
Yeah, I'm going through that same process now because people are like, what kind of photography do you do? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, but we do have to make an effort to kind of market and look at ourselves as almost like a little package. But let's take a couple questions already from people before I have more questions too, but let's get to the questions.
Do it.
So Rafael is asking you, Camilla, is there a real need for the portfolio to be responsive? Won't recruiters see it at the desk?
Oh, if it's mobile friendly, I always say like your website needs to work on all mediums. So yes, mobile friendly needs to be responsive because, okay, like on my personal portfolio, I have Google Analytics, which means I can see whoever is talking my book. And then you can see like if it's coming from mobile or desktop. My personal app portfolio is just 4% on mobile, but think about it, and this 4% can be someone that's going to do the hiring. So you have to think even for the small group. So that's like 100% your portfolio needs to be mobile friendly. All the platforms out there, they already offer like mobile responsiveness. Like Wix is not that good, but it is getting there. Squarespace is 100% responsive. So this is the type of platform you should be looking at if you don't want to have the trouble of building a portfolio just on mobile, one separate for desktop. So Cargo Collective is really good. Ready Magazine, I don't like it that much, but if you guys are feeling a little bit adventurous, you can try using that platform. But Adobe Portfolio is another one that's already becoming like super mobile friendly. So try to stick with platforms that you won't have the trouble to doing it, but definitely think mobile.
Have to double the work. Yeah,
exactly.
That makes sense. So Allison writes, is there a preference by recruiters on which platform to have your portfolio? Personal website versus Behance, for example?
They don't like Behance. I'm sorry to speak that, like, so to be super honest. They don't like Behance because it doesn't show personality. Everyone has the same portfolio. So try avoid Behance as much as you can. Like if you do illustrations on the side, if you want to show your Behance as like something on the side besides your portfolio, that's totally fine. But try to avoid using Behance because everyone else will have the same book as you do. So, but speaking of like other platforms, they don't have a preference, to be super honest. Some recruiters in them, like I'm talking like in USA and Europe specifically, they don't like one scroll. And then when I say one scroll is when they see everything in one big scroll. They like when things are thumbnails. So when you see like squares and then you click and it takes you to another page, they think it this way is more organized rather than having everything like all at once. So, but that's just recruiters. Creatives, they do like that. So, but we have to think about recruiters because they do the hiring, not creative itself. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the whole scrolling thing has a lot to do with Instagram, right? Like we get so used to having
in Brazil, like Brazilians love one scroll, but like here we don't have recruiters in Brazil. Like it's starting to change, but like the creative director sees it. So in one like long scroll, he likes to see everything. Yeah. So, but like it depends on the country you want to work for.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you're saying with, you know, some of the advice that you've already started to give us, which is super cool. It's really about knowing the market and sort of researching and knowing what the creative director or, you know, what the agency is really looking for and what kind of works to put for that agency, you know?
Yeah, you have to tailor your portfolio to what you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think, you know, that it might be a bit of a tangent, but I think a lot of creatives like don't do that, not because they don't want to, but sometimes I think it gets hard in the daily grind. It it gets hard to believe that you're like, oh yeah, no, I can totally get my dream job. You know what I mean?
Like, that's something I always say, like, you already have the no, so you might as well fight for the yes. Like,
yeah.
I have dream jobs too, like that I wanted to work for someday, but then like I keep just trying myself, you know, like trying hard, and you see where it goes, where it takes you. And sometimes a
Yeah.
dream job, it can be like total fail, you
Yeah.
know? So
You thought it
just
would be one thing and it's another, for sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Everton was asking, what should I put in my portfolio if I want to work in ad agencies? For graphic design studios, I hear it's all about branding and execution, typography, etc.
So right now he's in graphic design and he wants to switch to
That's
ad
what I
agency.
understand. Yeah.
So
But for ad
probably-
agencies, is it more? And then he follows up with, for ad agencies, is it more about campaigns and ideas instead of execution?
Okay, so I think if you're like in graphic design studio, it means you're a graphic designer or art director. So for me, you should have like campaigns and concept for sure, like conceptual campaigns. People like to know like if you can come up with an activation and how you came up with that. Print ads are cool if you're an art director, if you show like set of skills like comping and stuff. Like if you just put the product there and then the headline, that doesn't show much. So try to be very like, check out references from art directors, but I always say you do have to have campaigns. Ideas comes with conceptuals and campaigns, of course, so that's for sure it's going to be there. But definitely show your set of skills, and if you want to put a little bit of your graphic design skills, that's totally fine and that's totally acceptable. So just put it there, like if your graphic design skills, because like in Brazil, being a designer in an ad agency, sometimes it helps you so much because you get to touch everything. Right? So like in the US, the same. So whenever we want to create like a campaign, we go straight up to the graphic designers and say, hey, can you help us build this lockup? Or can you help us build this typography? Like we want to do something cool. The designers are like all there. So I don't treat it like, oh, I'm a graphic designer, I'm never fitting in an ad agency. For the contrary, you're going to feel like 100% well there. That's just my thought.
Nice. Marcelo is asking, with recruiters spending such a short time on books, would you recommend people to have as few projects as possible? So is 5 a good number, for example?
I recommend like 9 or 10. Like they usually, like even if you have 5, I think if they see 5 and depending on your experience, you're gonna think like you didn't do much. So like let's say you're a senior with only 5 in your book, they're not gonna like it as much. Not that they're gonna go through all the 9 projects, not that I'm saying that, but it gives them a little bit of range to see like everything you offer if they're about to hire you. But let's say we're talking about with students here and you guys don't have much, like don't go insane. Like I don't have any produced work. People know that when you apply for an entry level, you don't have produced work. So don't go crazy with yourself. Like I suck. You don't suck. They know that you don't have produced work. I was like that too. So what I did was I used to show my set of skills with spec work, so ghost work, you know, like create your own brief, show things like that. But if you're a student, it's okay to have 5 projects on your book, but if you're a senior, 9 to 10. If you're a city, up to 12, 15 is a good number. Don't ever go more than that because then it becomes a Bible and they're never going to see everything.
I think this might be a good segue for me to ask you about personal projects too, and then we'll get back to the questions in the chat. What are your thoughts on personal? Because you just mentioned, you know, maybe create your own brief. What are your thoughts on personal project? Do you recommend it? Do you not? Differences between Brazil and US?
100%. Like the good thing I love about Brazilians is that the Brazilian, not only Brazilians, but I've seen with Argentinians, Colombians, Mexicans,
Latin Americans,
yeah, they do a lot of personal project, and I love that. If there's a reason behind it, I have no idea, but like I do a lot of books in the US and nobody has personal projects there. I don't know why. There's like, I'm still trying to figure it out, but me personally, I love personal projects because it shows skills that you usually don't show on a day-to-day basis at the agency. Like I work on Citibank at Publicis, it's a bank. Like I don't get to be super creative with it, right? So in my portfolio, yes, it is related to advertising, but it gives me more creative, like more freedom, creatively speaking, to do things that I want to do. So that's why I like personal projects. It doesn't need to be related to advertising. It can be anything you want. There's this art director in Germany, like he's Brazilian, but he lives in Europe now. He does like fancy plating with crap food that he doesn't know how to cook. So he makes his beautiful plates, like his beautiful meals into beautiful plates, like settings. And he
But like
created
using
an
junk
Instagram.
food.
Yeah, like he created an Instagram with it, and he's like 10,000 followers. And even like the super like big guys in advertising, they like write about it. Like he has articles written about it. So like it doesn't have to get pressed, but it needs to show something that you like to do on the side. So that's
And it
why
needs
I
to be
love
authentic
personal.
too, right? Because, you know,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't be able to tell this guy to do this idea. It's so authentic to him. And I think
And
that,
sometimes it's insights that only you can think about. So that's
and
why I
so,
do love. People
and
need
so
to have it like
recruiters do look at that.
they love personal projects. They do.
Okay.
Because it shows like who you are outside work hours, and especially for students, it's a good way for you to show produced work. If you really want produced work, personal projects is the way to go, because every student out there that's about to graduate, if you see their portfolio, they all have student brief awards on their book. Is it's D&D, New York, like Future Lines, they all have similar briefs. So it's totally fine, but you also have to have something to set aside from everybody else. And for me, that's personal project.
Nice. Let's get back to the questions here. So Gaia, she says hi, and she asks you if you have any advice for copywriters.
For portfolio for copywriters, to be super honest, my favorite portfolios are from copywriters, because you guys have the like I'm not really good with words, so like copywriters, you lack art direction like on the overall like presentation of the portfolio, but you make it up so well on the rest of the portfolio that I love it. Like the about page of a copywriter is my favorite place to go. Recruiters love looking at books on a copywriter's about page. That's their favorite page on a portfolio when you're talking about a copywriter. Or even the way you tell a story. Like for me, copywriters is my favorite portfolio to watch, to review. But if let's say you don't have an art director to work with, so don't freak out. Like all the platforms out there, they do offer, like they're super friendly, like super user friendly. So you won't have any problems building a website with it. But if you, let's say you don't know how to make a GIF for your thumbnail, if you know how to do doodles or sketch, that's a cool way for you to show like thumbnails. If you're a copywriter, if you want to like, is that like step up on your game. But for me, for copywriters, having like headlines in a book is good. Have a nice project description, like a write-up explaining your work. This goes for art directors too, but I know copywriters, they like to explain a little bit more. So that's your way of like putting your words out there. Make sure, like if you have Twitter, recruiters, they like to read your tweets. If you're a copywriter, they said they're very funny. I don't know, I don't use Twitter, I'm the worst, but they do like it. Make sure you have long copy, that you know how to write a script. And then when I say script, it's like a case study script. They don't like, so that's just something even I don't like, that is don't put a written script on your portfolio. Recruiters, they don't read that, not even creatives. And they don't like it, because if without visuals, it's hard for them to concentrate and the idea can die right there. So try to avoid putting scripts there, but radio spots they do like. So if you can record on your own, that's nice. But that definitely have manifesto, they do like that. But I'm not no copywriter, but that's what I see when I review portfolios.
Awesome. So now with COVID, is the competition a lot tougher now to get a job or not, since there are more possibilities of applying remotely? One advice Everton heard is about sending emails with his portfolio to art directors as a way to get jobs or reviews. How does that work? Can I send it even if I don't know them?
I think the competition will be tougher, because once one job opens, everybody will run after it. So yes, I think unfortunately we will be tougher, but I also think on the good side that hopefully a lot of jobs will be opening. So there will be variety. But what you can do is whatever you're like, what you're already doing. So reach out to recruiters, reach out to creative, ask for mentorship, for them to mentor you, ask for portfolio reviews. So whenever the opportunity opens, they were like, oh, I remember Everton, so I can reach out to him. Like, what is he's up to? So the time we have now it's like building up a good network and a strong network for whatever the market is ready to go. You already have like a list of people you want to reach out to. Like you already have the places you want to work with. Your portfolio is already ready. One thing I always say, like, don't leave for last minute to update your book. Okay, like I've been updating my book since March, since the pandemic started, because we never know what's gonna happen, right? Like everyone's been caught like a surprise. So don't wait for like January to update your book, because people are gonna start hiring January. Like leave for last minute. Start reaching out to people. Even post on your LinkedIn, hey, I just updated my book. I'm open for like revision, like any feedback, and then leave it open to the feed. You know, I've seen people doing that, and I think it's nice. A lot of people are donating their time to review books. I'm doing that like constantly, like every day. So, but just send emails. Don't be super annoying though, because sometimes people send emails and then if you don't reply, they send like a message elsewhere, like, I sent you an email 2 hours ago. Don't be mean. People do work a lot. Just be nice and respect their time. And then if they don't reply you in 2-3 days, it's okay to send a follow-up. But just keep in mind that everything's like very difficult out there. And like the other day, I got this reply on my LinkedIn. So 4 years ago, I sent a message to this creative director, and she just now replied to me. And it was like 4 years
Four
ago.
years later.
I was like, okay, but like it's been nice. It's fine. Like I chatted with her, it was totally fine, but it was just funny.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna say it must have been very funny. You're like, thanks.
yeah,
4 years
but like
later,
LinkedIn,
now,
usually people don't reply on LinkedIn because like I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn, so it gets like way down. But like there's always, I always call like agency formula. So every agency, they have their formula for an email. It's usually their first name, the period, their last name at the publicist.com, right? So try to find the agency formula and then get the people you want to talk to and you try it out, you know, like put their name, last name, and then you send the email. That's what I did when I was looking for a job. When I moved to New York, I had like a spreadsheet full of like emails I was getting, like I entered their portfolios and I pulled from their portfolios and I was sending it up. Like, no, I swear to God, like not everybody replied, but I did try. So just don't be afraid of the no. Just keep trying.
awesome. So Mario wants to know, do you think Keynote is a good way to introduce his work as a copywriter, or do you recommend a better tool for that?
I wouldn't send as a PDF. The problem with Keynote is that you're going to have to send it as PDF. And then by sending as PDF, you're not going to be relevant on the Google search. Like you're going to have to send a PDF. Recruiters usually, they're not. They're going to look for a link. So it needs to have a link there. That's what they're looking for. Yesterday, I had another talk with a recruiter and she was like, I send like whenever like I message, I send the link right away to my creative team. Like sometimes you just send the link. Like if you have a PDF, I don't think it works nicely in your favor as you want to. So that's why I always say, like, find easy platforms to work with. Like Wix already, like they all have template ready. You just have to replace the information. If you don't mind like having template websites, that's totally fine. Just do it that way. But don't do Keynote. Recruiters, they're not gonna like that.
Amazing. Do you have any advice? I guess you've been talking a lot about the About Me section, how important that is. So Will is asking if you have any advice about what to put in the About Me section, and is that really important for the recruiters? I mean, I think you kind of already said yes, it is.
This is my favorite, and I'm a creative, but it's my favorite part. The reason why, like, I'm gonna explain mine. Mine, I put my photo there as a GIF, and then on the I don't talk about where I'm like, I don't that I was born in Brazil in 1991. Like, I don't talk about that because that's boring. I do talk about like my favorite McDonald's meals, like things that make Camilla. That's what I like to write about. It's not like long, it's like 5 lines. And I explain a little like something that's quirky about me, like something that it makes the recruiter wants to like, oh, okay, I'm definitely gonna ask that to Camilla. Like, did she jump on did she bungee jumpy? Okay, I'm gonna ask that about that. And then underneath that, you can have what I call the boring information. So you can put your experience, you can put your education, if you speak languages, awards and recognition. So things like that can go underneath the about copy. But then please keep the about copy something that's unique to you, that shows a little bit of who you are and your personality. So that's like, I'm looking for a partner right now. So every time I look for a partner, I read the about page, because like if I want to work on late night with someone, I want to have a connection with that someone. I want that someone to be cool. I don't want to work with someone that it doesn't click with me. So the about page works that way even for whoever is looking for a partner. So that's why I love it so much, and recruiters dig that a lot, like a lot.
We're all going to be working on our About Me sections tomorrow morning.
Please do,
Like,
and
oh
send
my
me, 'cause I
God.
love them.
Cheryl wants to know, should writers open their portfolios with their About Me because it is also a portfolio piece for them, or should they open with their work section?
That's a good question, but definitely open with the work section because they want to see their work first. And if it's interesting for them, they will go to your about page. That was another question we got yesterday from, I was literally doing something similar to this, and someone asked that. And then I had the DDB from New York, the recruiter from New York, and she said that she's literally said, no, about, like, work page, not about page. That was her answer. So I learned yesterday too. But
Straight
definitely
from
the
the
work section.
yeah, straight from the source.
Yeah,
No,
that's
open
why,
with
yeah.
Yeah, and I think this type of advice is so good when it's like a clear yes or no. You know, I think it helps
Yeah.
so much when you're
Usually, like, I don't know if we have strategists here, but usually strategists, I recommend them starting with the about section because they don't have more assets like we do, like work pieces. So starting on a longer copy format for strategists work better, but for creative, definitely work section first.
Awesome. Okay, guys, I'm going to jump back to my questions, but if you have more, please continue to write it into the chat section and I'll jump right back in, okay? So I wanted to cover this with you too, Camilla, because it's so cool that since 2017, you've pimped 520 portfolios, which is pretty crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah, and I can imagine it must have gone, I would assume they would have gone up during the pandemic now if people are like.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. And then you also had like a bunch of really cool milestones, like, you know, you wrote for Adweek on your, I saw it. That was so cool. You wrote for Adweek. You had collab events with Samsung and Squarespace, and you do classes and speaking gigs. And you were also selected last year, for those of you who don't know, here in 2019, right?
Yeah.
You were selected to be Forbes Brazil Under 30 Entrepreneur of the Year.
I still can't believe how that happened.
Top five in the advertising and marketing category.
Yeah, I have the magazine here. My mom bought a bunch.
Oh, you can show it to us later. I have a few questions about all of this. So like, I want to know a little bit about what sort of all this has meant to you. And I guess what has been one of or some of your most significant milestones, because you know you have the number of portfolios and you have Forbes and you have the what has been sort of what's really gotten to you?
For me, just like I always saw myself as not a strong creative, to be super honest, like compared to other creatives out there. But then when like Pimp came, I never seen anything like it. So I was like, oh, I'm super proud of. So anything Pimp does, even if I have to talk with just 8 students, that's for me, it's a milestone, because like it's insane the power of a portfolio can do. I had no idea it could grow that much. Like, I don't know numbers. I had to self-learn how to do Excel sheet because I pay taxes for Pimp my portfolio now, you know? So everything I do for Pimp, it's a milestone. But for me, the bigger one was when I went to teach a class at Samsung. And then like, I was so tiny back then, like super young. And then they invited me, like paid me to talk about portfolios. And I was like, crap. And then it was
like, are you sure?
Wait, and I was like, are you talking to the same Camilla? And then it was like, for me, it was a highlight because it was like a big brand that recognized me. But then the other milestone is that last year I went to Cannes as not in my portfolio. That's my other milestone I want to achieve someday. But I went as publicist sent me as like as Camilla, and then I put like a sticker on my Cannes card, and I was like proudly wearing in my neck. And then this group, I was in networking, and then this group of guys stopped. And I was like, are you from Pin My Portfolio? And I was like, where are you from? He was like, I'm from India. And I was like, you know Pin My Portfolio in India? And then it's like, yeah, we know, like you're like, we talk about you at the agency because I think you did someone in London. And then you reach out to you, like, oh my crap. And then for me, that was a milestone because it was a dream to be in Cannes, and then someone recognizing Pimp's logo. And I was like, oh my gosh, I made it. I mean, I know I have a lot to do yet, but For me, every little thing I do for pimp is a milestone. So I have everybody to thank for, because it wouldn't be for them, I wouldn't be here for sure. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. That's amazing. We have one more question. What makes a good conceptual ad campaign? The kind that would get people hired?
I always say the smart one. They're ones that that has like a twist in the end. Like you think it's gonna be something, but then in the end it'll be like mind blowing. It's like, holy crap, that happened. So that's for me the best conceptual ad campaigns is the one that gets you out of the blue. Like you weren't expecting that in the end.
Awesome. Marcelo, is pimp for every level of seniority? I think it is, right? From what I saw, it is, right?
Oh yeah, that was another milestone when I pimped CCO's portfolios. I never knew they needed portfolio. There's just drop your name and you go, you know. But then yes, even CCOs need portfolio. I did 7 portfolios for CCOs, and then amazing CCOs. Even my CCO, I did it just for fun because he didn't have a portfolio and I wanted to meet him. But yes, for every level, like senior, mid-level, recent grad students, CCOs, and
yeah, I think it goes. I think
it
it goes a little bit back to what you were saying, that someone can be an amazing creative and have amazing work, but still not know how to make it look like themselves.
Yeah, for sure, because even like the platforms, so a lot of platforms they were using and were outdated, so they have to update it to a new platform. But first of all, they don't have the time to do that, or second of all, sometimes it's so hard for you to judge your own work that you need an outsider to do that. So most people come to pimp because they need help, because it's like, oh, I already deleted my portfolio 5 times, so I need someone else to look at it. So that's pretty much what I usually do too. But it doesn't matter the level. I help everybody, I learn a lot too with it.
You want to pimp everyone's portfolio. And speaking of which, how do you see your business growing from here then? Like, what is your grand vision, if you can share it?
I'm so ready to become a recruitment agency. I want to pick the right places.
That's awesome.
Because I've been to a lot of recruitment agencies, but they don't recruit, they don't check your portfolio before looking for a job for you, right? They just get the portfolio however you put it together and then just find the work for you. That's not how you land a job properly. Sometimes I'm still in lists of waiting to hear back from recruiters since 2017, So I want to tailor build the portfolio to the right position. So that's what I want to do. Fingers crossed. It was supposed to be this year, but COVID. Who knows?
Dude, no worries. You're so young. You're on fire. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing your thing. You'll get there.
Who knows? Maybe someday.
So speaking of that also, what would your, let's say your next dream collab be? Since you've already had a few, but what would your next one?
I want to go to Cannes to teach young lines at the Cannes Academy. That's my goal for next year. I won't stop until I get it. That's I've been bugging everybody since January. Hey, maybe someday they will come in. Okay, stop, you made it.
Yeah,
that's my next goal.
Natalia's asking about, I don't think she knows what Pimp My Portfolio is. Natalia, I'm going to put in on the Instagram page on the chat so you can check it out, okay?
Yeah, and please follow Pimp because I'm trying to become important on Instagram.
It's at Pimp My Portfolio, just like that, right?
Yes.
I'm just going to put it in now so if anyone they can go check you out. Let me check on the time. Okay, we're sort of getting close to the end, guys. We have another 10 minutes, more or less. So definitely keep sending your questions. I have a few more, but keep sending questions, okay? So I don't know if we have so much time to get into Zoom interviews. So maybe we could go very quickly through that because I know you speak a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. So that's one of your specialties is how do you prepare for a job interview via Zoom? So maybe you can just talk sort of briefly about that because I think our main focus today is sort of the portfolio stuff.
Yeah, so find a quiet room, turn off all your phone and notifications on your screen. So people if you share your screen with a recruiter, it's not gonna pop any messages or your boss, where are you? So make sure you turn that off. Make sure the connection is good. And then, you can wear your PJs at the bottom, but just try to wear something that you like, that you feel that shows your personality and that you're comfortable with, because it's more nerve-wracking presenting on Zoom rather than in person. At least that's what I think, because I don't see people's faces and reactions. So even in interviews, sometimes the recruiter, you can tell that she's distracted. So just make sure like you know how to share a screen, you know how to unmute yourself or put the video on, so you don't have any technical problems. But other than that, clean the background, because sometimes it can distract you yourself too, or hide your dogs. My dog barks a lot, so I have to put them on the other room. But things like that makes it easier. Just for your, don't be nervous about it.
Yeah. I feel like I prefer online almost. I don't know.
Oh, I love in person because I like stand-up comedy, so I can make people laugh. And then I was like, when I'm not seeing their like actual reactions, like, oh my gosh, are they laughing? I don't know.
They don't turn their cameras on when people are in.
No, it's just like, even if you're interviewing me, I like to be face to face, because sometimes I feel like it's more like
the energy
natural for me. Yeah. I need to feel the vibe. Exactly.
All right, we have 2 more questions here in the chat, and then we'll go to our round of quick fire questions. So do you think having a specific style helps us differentiate, like separate us from the competition, or in advertising it's better to focus more on the conceptual work? I think that's 2 sort of separate.
I don't mind having a specific style, but I think it depends on what the agency you want to work for and the client too. So I'll try to mix it up a little bit of both. Like if having a specific style tailors you as a creative, then definitely show it, but try to mix it up. Don't just focus on one thing.
Yeah, I think one thing I say to photographers too, when I'm sort of mentoring them, is that if they want to go for commercial work, is even to have maybe 2 separate portfolios.
Yeah.
So like they can have their personal work somewhere where they develop their specific style, which might be something long-term, like, wow, this is what I see for my career, and then have something else for a commercial. So
yeah, that's good. Even for pharma, people do that.
Oh, for pharma, right?
Yeah, they create like
another
link up on the top. Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah. Also, is there a certain style or language to advertising that is better to have or to develop?
I don't think so. I mean, again, it depends on the client. It depends on the way you like to write. Like, I know writers that they only like to write sarcastic stuff. It's their style. But it depends again for what you are looking for. The more you have a specific style, it's harder for you to find a job, because it's too specific. So try not to become like super duper. Like I just write funny things. Like a writer that can make you cry and laugh in one portfolio, for me, is the way to go. But I'm no writer, so it's hard for me to explain what's right and wrong. But me as an art director, whenever I'm seeing a portfolio, I don't like to see one style only. Yeah, laugh is cool, but also like, can you talk about credit cards? Because we can be funny in credit cards. Can you write about that? So having a range is always good.
Awesome. Ele, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Can we see a pimped portfolio somewhere, or a good example of a portfolio? Do you have any good examples to share?
Yeah, if you go to Pimp My Portfolio website, I think someone shared, but I'll share it here again.
I put in the Instagram. Oh yeah. Pimp My Portfolio US. Rafael Silva put it.
Yeah, he did it. I'm just putting here again. I can share you via email separately, because I have NDA stuff that I cannot post on my website and stuff. But on my website, they have my favorite ones. I use my portfolio as an example, not because I want to advertise about myself, it's because it needs to be good, because I use it as an example with recruiters. So if my portfolio is not good, that's bad advertising for myself. But I can definitely send you, like, if you shoot me an email, I can definitely use options for sure. I'm putting my personal email here for everybody to have, but yeah.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. Also, I'm like,
I was like, my connection is not good.
Yeah, no. Yeah. My mouth wasn't working properly. All right. So this is a great question, Gabriele. Thank you. She sent this. Look, Camilla, you said that you were anxious. I also have anxiety. And sometimes thinking about working in my portfolio can be a trigger point. Did you feel like this in the beginning? If yes, what did you do to overcome that?
I felt like that all the time, because I do suffer from bad anxiety. But when I was starting in New York, I had the pressure, like I moved to another continent to find a job here. So I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. but that wasn't making me go anywhere. The more anxious I felt, the less opportunities I was getting, not because I was showing in an interview, it's because I was putting too much pressure on myself. So what I did was I built a portfolio. I sent it to my friends and to my mentors, and the feedback I got was the feedback I got. So I put them into action, and that was the last time I touched my portfolio for at least 6 months. I promised myself I wouldn't touch in a while, and then I was able to land a job because I was like changing so much, like constantly, that was making my anxiety go more anxious. So it was like a snowball effect. So I told my friend, like my friends are in advertising, they gave me their feedback. My mentor gave the feedback. I made sure it was like, okay. And then I promised myself I like not touching this for a while, and then it worked out. But the more you look, the like more things you find that it's wrong. So just stop for your sake. Just please stop. Don't do it.
Yeah, you're so right. I think sometimes it's important to just make a decision and give time, let time do its work and sustain that to see what happens based on that. And then maybe change it later, but like sustain, like be patient and sustain that.
And also like advertising, some's gonna like what you did, some won't. That's the advertising. Like nobody's ever happy with the work. Like my boss likes something I did today and then tomorrow you hate it. That's totally fine, but other people will like it too. So don't take one no for like too seriously, you know?
Yeah, I think I'll share maybe a small piece of advice too, Gabriele, which has helped me in the last few years, is to focus more on the process, is to really kind of thrive and enjoy the process. Because usually as creatives, like Camilla was saying, like we never think our work is done, or like we could always do more, and we always have new goals as well. Like I got here, now I want this, now I want that. So maybe just, yeah, and I think like reducing negative self-talk is a thing that you can also Google, which I think is really interesting, which is as soon as you want to say something bad about yourself, you like really stop yourself and say, no, like I'm not going to listen to that. I've been using that and I swear it works.
I'm going to try that too.
I do look a little crazy when I do it, but I swear it works.
I'm so going to try that. I need that. I've been like 2020, been testing my anxiety up to the roof.
Yeah. I think this is going to be the last question from the chat, guys. So you're welcome, Gabriele. If you need any more advice too, like definitely come to us. I know also for a girl, how hard it can be sometimes to go through that. So you can reach out to me or Camilla. And I'm going to put my email in here actually too, like this. She can reach out to me if she wants to. All right, perfect. Everton, you're going to be the last question.
Like to ask questions. I love that.
Yeah. You said that in the beginning, you used a spreadsheet of art directors in New York and sent emails. How does that work? What do you write usually? And how did you get jobs for it from it?
Okay.
So did you end up getting a job from the spreadsheet?
Yeah. The spreadsheet was like, I organized into columns. So it was like people, like the names and then their emails and then the agency they work. So I can update constantly if they left the agency. I was like, oh, they're this agency now. And then on another tab on the spreadsheet, I used to write emails, like body of emails that worked and body of copy of emails that didn't work when I sent, as well as subject lines. So if you write art director looking for a job, that's pretty plain. Everybody does that. So it didn't work out very well. So I sent the same email to the same person, but I changed the subject line to Darth Vader's Luke Skywalker's father as a subject line, and I got responses because of it. So I was just exploring. There's no right or wrong. I just like play around with what I felt was right for me. But on the email, I wrote like, I don't like writing formal. I like to write like the way I think. So I usually introduce myself, and then I always do a stalking on LinkedIn. So if the person wrote an article, I can say like, hey, I saw you I saw you wrote this article. I thought it was really interesting. The part you said this, blah, blah, blah. And then so I love to be able to show you my portfolio. So you find something nice and then you ask for what you want. It's just like a nicer way for you to ask, I need a job, instead of going straight forward, like straight up with it. So this is just the way I found to find a job there. It did work. All my work I found on via LinkedIn, and then I sent emails because of it, but there's no right or wrong again. some people are super lucky. Like the first email they write, they get the job. I'm not that. Like I'm like, I was born to be a hustler. So I have to send like tons of emails until I get an answer, but that's the way it worked for me because I have OCD. So having like a spreadsheet with all the emails so I can keep up with, because sometimes I could send the same email to the same person. If I didn't have the spreadsheet, like it would not be organized from my end to send the same email, like copy paste for the same person, you know? So the spreadsheet helped me keeping organized. I sound like a crazy person. I really am not. I just like organization.
I did the same thing. I have a children's book that I wrote that's coming out next year.
Oh,
and I
that's so
did
cool.
exactly that to reach out to publishers here in Brazil. I had a
'cause, like,
spreadsheet.
sometimes.
Yeah. And then I had the like yes, no column so that I could keep track
I did that
of.
for pimp too, so I can keep up with my client. So
Yeah.
it's just a better way.
Last quick question, Camilla, for us to wrap this up in under 1 hour, because then we can post it on Instagram also. What is the number one thing or things, I guess, if there's more than one, that's kept you motivated throughout these years, throughout all these experiences, you know, from living in a church to visas to all of this? What's kept you motivated?
Oh, damn. Is that I had a goal. That's what keeps me motivated. If I didn't have goals, I think I would just be normal Camilla. I never have left Brazil. So having goals for me, at least, it makes me move forward. Like it makes me who I am. So if you have a goal, that was gonna move you for sure. So plan ahead. Like if you don't have to have everything planned because sometimes you can get very disappointed. Like you don't have control over things. But if you say like in 5 years I want to work in New York, when you put like a mood board and you visualize it, definitely gonna work. So that happens to me. I still can't believe that happened. So that's for me, it's just goals.
So basically dream big, guys. I want to thank
It's cliche and
everyone.
very Disney, but that's true. It happened.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Guys, I want to thank everyone so much for being here and for sending all these amazing questions. I learned so much as well here. I'm so happy, Camilla. And it was such a pleasure to meet you and to get to know like
so do you.
all your stories. And let's definitely stay in touch because I really admire your
sure.
work and everything you've done so far. So guys, reach out to Camilla if you need anything.
Thank you very much.
Reach out to me. Any closing thoughts, Camilla, or?
No, just keep doing whatever you're doing. I know like times are tough right now, but if you guys are watching this on a Thursday night, it's because you're fighting to make it happen. So I appreciate, I applaud you all. So keep doing it, and hopefully 2021 is gonna kick 2020 ass. So that's what I expect for it. But thank you very much for watching and all the questions. I love participating.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you, Camilla. Have a good night,
Have
everyone.
a good night. Bye. Thank you.